Hi, my name is Jude Matulich-Hall, and this is Titles, Talk, and Tipples. With me today is the beautiful B. Sharise Moore, the author of... Thank you, B, for joining me today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And what are we drinking today?
We are drinking some lovely spring water today.
Cheers.
So nothing amazing, nothing, but it is good for you. So yes, everybody needs water.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I'm already fumbling my words and being silly, and I'm only drinking water. So. Yeah, I've been a huge water drinker since high school when I took a science class and learned how important it was. Before that, it was like soda pop, but
right.
Yeah. All right. So our writing topic is going to be African mythological creatures. So I'm just going to let you take that away. Go for it. Tell me all about it. Teach me.
Sure. So I'm in graduate school, and my Master of Science is in curriculum and instruction, but we are allowed to have a concentration within the major. Oh, there's my son. Why don't you just come and say hi? Come say hi, and then can you go downstairs and watch Toy Story? Say hi. Say hi, Miss Jude.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Doing okay?
I'm fine.
All right. Bye.
Enjoy Toy Story. I love that movie.
Yeah, you can take that if you want. So what I wanted to do was choose a concentration in my major that I really would enjoy. So I chose writing for children and young adults. And I took some fantastic classes, just discovering more about writing fiction for young people. There's a fiction workshop. There's a reading like a writer course that I really love.
Nice.
And then there was a nonfiction writing class. And so one of the most important projects or assignments in that class was the market research we had to do. So we were required to join SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, for those who don't know. But we were also expected to do market research on what was there, what was kind of oversaturated, and what wasn't there.
Oh yeah.
And so what I did was really think about the things that I really enjoy, and I've always loved mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a sixth grade teacher, as a middle school language arts teacher, teaching mythology was so much fun for me. And the students loved it. Like, it was always their favorite portion, of school. And so I just, while teaching, ironically, I'm teaching mythology and I'm taking this class at the same time. And I'm thinking to myself, there's not many books about mythological creatures outside of European mythological creatures.
Sure.
And it's even though fantasy is really taken over now, we see so many streaming shows, that are fantasy in nature, and of course so many YA books and adult fantasy books that are flying off the shelves. We still only see, the unicorn, the dragon, the Pegasus, the fairy, and you don't really see those creatures from other countries from around the world. So what I did was I tested my theory on my students. They were always kind of guinea pigs a bit for me. And so I had them do this project in our mythology unit, where they had to choose a mythological creature that was not from Europe.
Yeah.
And the only student that I allowed to get away with a kind of sort of European-ish creature was the phoenix, but technically the phoenix is like Middle Eastern and Egyptian, so I allowed them
sure,
to get away from that. But they loved it, you know, and so I gave them like a list, you know, and I picked these different creatures for them to look up. And so as a teacher, one of the great things is you learn so much from your students.
Yeah.
And so my students, they picked these creatures, and I learned even more about them through their projects.
Oh,
and the projects were so cool. Like one group, because I allowed them to work in small groups, in pairs, or solo, you know, and there were all kinds of projects. This one group got together and they put together a talk show.
Oh, nice.
And it was so cool. And the talk show was like mayhem or myth, you know, and they had like, you know, the talk show host, and the talk show host was interviewing a guest who claimed they'd seen a specific mythological creature, right. And there was, you know, somebody in the audience disputing them. And then I had another group of students who actually did like a Jeopardy game show of mythological creatures, which was really cool. Yeah. And then I had another student who worked by herself, and she created this amazing painting. You know, and another student who did like, you know, a multimedia presentation. So I learned even more about these creatures. And so I'm doing market research, and I just see almost nothing about African mythological creatures. Mm-hmm. And
I've never seen anything, right? You know,
it's like there's so few books, so few titles. And so I decided to create my book proposal, which was the final, you know, assignment in the class, on fangs, feathers, and folklore, Africa's amazing creatures. And that was the book that I wrote, and I envisioned it, in the proposal, I envisioned it as this like really short picture book, like middle school level picture book. Yeah. But by the time my agent got a hold of it, and by the time like editors got a hold of it, it's like now this massive like compendium of 60 creatures.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, and it's, you know, going to be like a tabletop book, you know. Cool. And so I'm really excited about it, and I'm just using it over and over and over again. And Dr. Marvelous Finn's Odd Scholars. Dr. Marvelous Finn is a magician who owns an amusement park in 1920, and inside of the amusement park, she has a menagerie. Of mythological creatures. And so some of the creatures that I studied for both my class as well as my book proposal for graduate school make appearances in Dr. Marvelous Finn's Odd Scholars. So I just continue to use them over and over and over again. And then I've written 2 like picture books based on these creatures as well. So like I've just taken the material and I just kind of recycle it over and over again and find new ways to use it. Because it is so very obscure. It's still such obscure knowledge, you know, and but something that I think people would really freak out if they knew about it. Like it's so amazing. I think my favorite creature, I have so many that I really like, but Chip-Falon-Fala is one of my favorites, and Chip-Falon-Fala is a giant fish. And this comes from the folklore of the people of Mozambique. And he's a benevolent creature, you know, so he's a really caring creature. And according to legend, he helps young children and people who are in danger of drowning. Oh. And he saves them. And this giant fish literally has an entire world in his belly. Oh, cool. Villages, mountains, people living there. So all of the people who were presumed dead, you know, or missing after having drowned are actually living in Chip-Falon-Fala's belly. So it's a really, really cool, you know, folklore. Yeah. And so, you know, just things like that. But, you know, swallowing monsters and river shutters, those are pretty common throughout the entire world. You know, we see those types of creatures throughout.
Yeah, I was doing a little research for my, I'm writing a pirate adventure right now, and I wanted to, you know, get away from the monsters that we always hear about that live in the ocean, you know, but I still wanted to stick to the kind of the pirate, folklore, but my main character is from a different world anyway. So it was nice idea, I think, to look up these monsters that I'd never heard of before. So this gives me even more that I can can look into, because it's like you type in ocean creatures and all the main, Cthulhu's like number one. From there, it's like, and you get the Greek and the Norse mythology, and then it kind of stopped. I found a little bit of Japanese, but I just need to delve a little deeper, and I'll end up finding more interesting things. But yeah, it's kind of hard to find.
I know exactly what you're talking about. In Japanese folklore, it's a ghost whale. Mm-hmm. I think is that the one you came across? It's like a ghost whale, and it lives like in the bottom of the sea, and it's like translucent.
Oh no, I didn't come across that one.
I'll send you that one if you want.
Okay. Great. Yeah. I came across an interesting one called Ikutorsu, which sounds, and it's like this, it has antlers, and it's like and tusks, it's kind of like a huge walrus and deer mixed or something living in the ocean. And I can't remember where that came from. I'll have to look it up, and that might have been like the Netherlands or something, but
yeah. It's just really cool how ancient people, created things to explain, natural phenomena.
Yeah.
And then the more you dig, the deeper you dig, you find these commonalities amongst all of these cultures,
Yeah.
Which I'm sure goes back to Pangea, but it's just really, really cool. But even Native American mythology, I came across that when I wrote like a cluster of haiku, and I came across all kinds of really cool, mythology that was born here in the United States. That we never talk about. It's like
yeah.
Why aren't we
talking about this?
It's so weird.
Right.
It's right here. Like there's this cool monster, and it's called. Was it the Dark Watchers? And these are folk tales that are native to Northern California, and it's like these creepy beings that just like watch you at night. They're really, really creepy, and so like I don't know. I like digging deeper into that stuff because, again, these are things that are so obscure, and who wants to hear about the same old things over and over and over and over again? It gets to be a bit of a bore. So, and there's so many things that we can find and give us fodder to write great stories. So I like definitely. That.
I think it's kind of our responsibility. There are a lot of writers right now, and there's going to be even more next year. Right? And so I feel as a writer, it's our responsibility to give the world something different, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's just a repeat, regurgitated, and so it's fantastic that you're coming out with this, and this is coming out next year.
It should be next spring. So, it should be next spring. That was the latest timeline. Contracts, we just got the email from my agent today. Should be signed next week. So, but you and I both know.
Yeah. A long process. Yeah. I think
it's a long process.
It's kind of funny that we're talking about the long process. So I quote unquote signed with my my publisher in October, but I actually was picked up in October, and it took a couple months of just chatting before he sent out the contract, and then I forgot about it, and then it was just like, I think it was 3 months ago or something. I said, "So when do we get to start working on the book cover?" And he said, "As soon as you sign the contract." And I was like, "I haven't signed the contract yet." I had completely, we were just going along, and I was thinking the whole time that I had already signed it, and I found it I had signed it, but I hadn't sent it to him. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's a good thing that like there's a lot of honest people out there because we'd been working together for that long before yeah, we actually had a contract. So how about a quiz regarding your work? And this will also kind of give us a leeway where you can talk more about the work that you've done. I chose, I'll read you some stuff from Black Kaleidoscope and yeah, I'll mix it up a little bit. And I figured that was a really fun, beautiful, book.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So where can one find haggling customers, a cacophony of odors, flowers mixed with ripe fruit and raw meat fresh from the slaughter, flowy skirts spread out over wooden tables and carts covered with perfume bottles, fish with their heads still attached, and emerald ferns in clay jars?
That is Charleston, South Carolina.
Nice. And where can you specify the name of
That's from Brenda's chapter in Dr. Marvelous Pen's Odd Scholars. And yes, she's in her competition. Well, she's wandered away during the intermission of her competition. And that is the ingenuity competition.
Yeah. And is it the street or it's called Cabbage Row?
Yes. Cabbage Row was a specific area in Charleston. And I believe, I'm going to have to double check this, but I believe that during the 1920s and 1930s, it was a specific place where Black people were allowed to sell their wares. Because, of course, this is still a heavily segregated time.
Sure, yeah.
But Cabbage Row was a specific place where Black vendors and Black customers would frequent.
Very nice. Yeah, I love those kinds of parts of stories, is the environment, and when you come up with the sights and the smells, and you can just almost hear the noise in the background. Very lovely.
Thank you.
What is native to the Gambia River, has reflective scales, and grows to nearly 30 feet?
The Ninki Nanka.
Yes.
Yes, one of my favorites. I love that dragon. Yes, the Ninki Nanka is a West African dragon and has this really cool folklore that, like, the eggs are actually birthed in the clutch of eggs is like birthed in the limbs of a baobab tree.
Oh, okay.
And once the eggs hatch, it slithers down to the ground and into the river. So that's like the folklore, which is really odd and interesting and terrifying. As you know, baobab trees are like huge, like they're like amazingly huge. Like those trees are just awesome to me, and I knew I had to put them in this story. And that's the Ninki Nanka.
Yeah, and I love that chapter because I got to explore all some different monsters and stuff, and so that was a lot of fun.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so far, yeah. Okay, so this is a place that feels like a museum with a long red carpet stretched from wall to wall, marble statues looming like wardens over prisoners, and glass panes allowing light in from the moon and stars.
That's the Haunted Obelisk.
Yep.
Yes, and the Haunted Obelisk is a really creepy place. And it's an exhibit / amusement ride, and it's filled with Damned souls.
Yeah.
Yes. So, basically, if you want to ride the haunted obelisk, you step into this glass elevator and it shoots you up inside this glass obelisk that looks a lot like the Washington Monument. That's what an obelisk is. And you're surrounded by damned souls that
Damn
have been
soul.
captured. Yes. For fuel.
Very good. Oh, we got to be green.
Right. Might as well reuse them, right?
Yeah.
Reusable fuel. There we
There you
go.
go.
Renewable energy.
The alley stretched before him like a careless river of trash, shattered glass, used condoms, discarded food wrappers, and party flyers stared up at him.
Yes, that's from my story, The Lover, the Brother, the Jeweler, and the Ring.
Yeah.
Yes, and that story is about, it's a short story, it's about a human, a regular human who falls in love with a time traveler, and he wants to marry her, but he finds out that he can't just get her any old diamond ring. He has to get her something really special and magical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was I liked that aspect of like no, just old diamond ring. Not any old diamond. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I won't give anything away, but yeah, it was a very, very fun story. And I did notice that some of the characters had some of the similar names. So was that, are they the same characters that are in your novel that are, okay?
They are. I built the world, so I just said, why don't I just have fun with it? And so I've written all kinds of related stories, from that same world. So it's the same Dr. Marvelous Jinn, just in a different time. And since she's a time thief, I thought, why not put her in the present?
Yeah.
She can exist wherever she'd like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even my book, Fangs, Feathers, and Folklore, is a book that's like on the shelf in Dr. Marvelous Jinn's Scholars, and it's mentioned. So
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought it was cool. It's funny, before all of this, these horrible things that J.K. Rowling has said and claimed, I was a huge Harry Potter fan. So I did take a lot of cues from her, and I noticed that that's how she really built her empire. And so that's something that I did. I was inspired by. Yeah, but we know who she is now.
Yes, we do. She keeps coming up.
She does. She doesn't seem to want to be educated, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah. Graffiti's kiss, clothed in systemic rot. They gave us street odyssey.
Isn't that the Black Arts movement?
Yes. Yeah. Amira Baraka, the Black Arts Movement poets.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if it's BAM or if you actually say BAM.
It is BAM. They existed around the same time as the Beat poets as well. So they do call it the BAM movement during the 1960s. And Amir Baraka has always been one of my influences. He's also a New Jersey native, or he was. Rest in power to him. And he is a professor at Rutgers as well. So heavily influenced by him. And as a spoken word poet, you just couldn't get around not knowing anything about Amiri Baraka. He was like one of the fathers of spoken word, So I wanted to write something and just dedicate it to that group of individuals who just blaze such amazing trails for today's poets.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. For you, I offer armor and metal wings, heavy swords, a suit of impenetrable mail, golden reincarnation.
Okay. That one is for Black women victims of police brutality. And gosh, So it's definitely for Breonna Taylor, for, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm...
And I don't expect you to I did write it down to list all.
Okay.
But you're correct. But I'll go ahead and read them because I think it's important that, as long as their names are spoken, right? So Breonna Taylor, Tatiana Jefferson, Sandra Bland, Ayanna Stanley Jones, and Corinne Gaines. Yeah. Yeah. Rest in power.
Yes, rest in power to them. Yes.
Oh. Okay, one more.
Okay.
So far, you're probably going to be the first one that gets 100%. I won't jinx it though.
I know.
Ever heard sound as subterfuge, a puzzle of piano keys, the great maze of improv, smoky midnight, a spiraling fuse?
That poem is about jazz.
Yep. Ding ding, the first writer to get 100% on my quiz. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. And that gives people a taste of your writing, which is brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm working really hard because I'm really like a poet who's like, now in the fiction space and it's different and I'm learning the inner workings of fiction and now moved away from craft, not moved away, but I'm always reading, snippets about craft. But as you can see, like this is just like my pile of craft books actually.
Oh, nice.
But I'm also like just studying writers, and studying their approach to writing and wondering what makes their work so meaty. Yeah. So right now, and I was just telling Claire this, Claire Elizabeth and I are really cool on Facebook. And she is Carlos Hernandez's wife. And so I'm reading Sal and Gabby Break the Universe. It's a middle grade book, but it's so fun and amazing.
Oh, nice.
And Carlos is really cool because he has a type of career that I want to have. Like he writes everything, he writes in amazing poetry. He also writes great adult short stories, that I've read. And he also writes amazing middle grade fiction too. So he spans that whole gamut, so I'm starting to just read more. And so the last couple months I've read like 2 novels, which is a lot for me because I spend a lot of time writing. But I'm taking more time to read and just digest and really analyze, how my favorite writers write.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent idea. And I too, it's like, I did not read very much last year. And I realized, I wasn't getting through my piles of books. And but I was writing a ton, and so now I'm trying to, I was missing actually reading, and I got to get through more books. There's too many wonderful ones out there.
Right. Well, you're absolutely right. Definitely. Yes.
So let's switch gears. You are an educator. And so our non-writing topic, you chose education. So, and you even, you designed or you wrote a workbook? A
textbook.
Textbook. There we go.
Yes. So I was a public school teacher for 12 and a half years. I left last year, but I'm still teaching creative writing classes through this great nonprofit called Uptown Stories, and they're based in New York, and we do virtual classes, and it's been fantastic. I taught a class called All About Dragons, and that was fun, and we just talked about dragons from around the world. And then I taught another world building class, and I also taught just an elements of fiction class as well. And so this coming September, I'll be running the dragons class back again. And it's just been fun to really have the freedom to teach what I want,
Yeah.
and to design my own classes, because you're not able to do that at all, you know, in public schools. And it's also been really cool because I get such positive feedback from, you know, parents and students. Like, they're just awesome, you know, and it really makes me feel good. And the students are there really because they want to be there. Like, they, it's an extra class, you know, it's not something they have to take. And then I'm also teaching some students that are homeschooled. So these counted some of their homeschooling hours, you know.
Very good.
And they're fun. So, yeah, education is something that I'm really passionate about, but the older I get and the more I see the different sides of education, the more kind of radical I get. You know, it's, you know, like it was just really inevitable that I needed to leave the classroom because I felt so closed in. And I think one of the things that I disliked the most about it was how much the average student hates school.
Yeah.
You know? And it's something that, I don't know if educators and administrators are honest enough about.
Yeah.
But like, our students don't want to be there. No. Like, ever. And it's like, you know, I have, over the years, I've met amazing students, and some of those students I've formed really great relationships with. Like, one of my students now is a Hollywood writer.
Oh, wow.
Amazing, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I've noticed since she was 14 years old, you know, and when she walked in my room, I knew she was a star. And, you know, we just kept in touch over the years, and she gives me her work to give feedback on, and I give her my work. So she's known about Dr. Marvelous Jen's Odd Scholar since it was a short story. Like, that's how it began. Yeah. And so, like, she read it, and she's just like, this has got to be in the big screen. And so we actually worked together, and we actually pitched it in June to a network. Oh. And they were interested, and it's amazing. So it's now in development. Crazy, like, amazing. But
that's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
So those kinds of relationships, you know, those make it all worthwhile. But oh my gosh, I just remember the struggle so often with students, and I felt bad for them because they're constantly tested over and over and over again, and you know, and they're never given the opportunity to contribute to and have a say-so in their own learning, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I don't like that, because they're stakeholders.
It's just a lesson and memorize something long enough to get it written down, and then it's out of your brain. I'm sure there are the few that it's not, but and then, does anybody remember that stuff? I mean, I just remember, I remember how treacherous it was. And I never remembered anything that took place in a test. You know, I remember stuff that actually pertains to life, but how much of that stuff in school is actually going to do, are you actually going to use?
Right. Exactly. And I don't know. I wanted to do something different, and one of the things that I did do in the classroom was I would make use of our maker space. We had a huge maker space in our basement. And it was just this huge, it looked like an industrial room, and it was full of all kinds of arts and crafts and supplies, and like there was a green screen and everything, you know, for cardboard, plastic, boxes, you know, markers, pens, glue guns, everything. And I would always just make sure that my students were doing some type of hands-on projects. For those students that are bodily kinesthetic learners, those students who are, you know, visual artists, you know, those students who really work well with their hands and are good at, you know, doing something. It's something other than, you know, circling a true or false question or writing an essay. I mean, really, that's who schools are set up for, you know, our verbal learners, you know, and our logical mathematical learners. Everybody else is kind of like out of.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, oh, well, if you can't tell us what you know in this way and this way only, then you fail, you know? And it's really unfortunate. So with the textbook project, I was able to raise some money and pay, how many authors do we have now? I think it might be 20 different authors.
Oh,
you
wow.
know?
Okay.
And so I have about, I think I have 9 poems, 11 short stories, 2 excerpts from novels, and an additional, I think it's 7 nonfiction articles, and then 3 pieces of art.
Nice.
So like it's really a huge textbook.
Yeah.
Like it's finished, but like it's being laid out, and I sent it out to educators to just give feedback, for the first unit. And the first unit alone is 100 pages, and it's 4 units. So
oh, wow. Oh, okay. Well, textbooks are pretty,
yeah.
textbooks are pretty amazing.
It's a textbook, exactly. And so I had a lot of fun though, just developing curriculum and developing these cool extension activities that require more of a child, besides just circling an answer in a test. It requires them to think about community, to think about history, and to think about themselves and how they fit into community. And,
very nice.
And to giving them the opportunity to make dioramas and, different things that we would always run out of time. It's just, oh gosh, it's just, the public schools just, everything is just truncated, and you're governed by these bells and ding, oh, look, let me go to this class, ding,
yeah. Gosh.
And there's a pacing guide, and it's just like, okay, you have to be finished with this unit by this time. You have to give them the benchmark test by this time. They have to do this by this time. And, you just run out of time. Time is such an issue. And a lot of those really cool projects, they get cut.
Yeah.
They're the first to go, because it's like, well, we don't have time to do that.
Yep.
So, so I'm still a passionate educator, just one that operates outside of the school system now.
Right.
And I'm also noticing that there are a lot more parents who are turning to homeschooling. They're homeschooling their children because of COVID and other reasons.
Yeah.
So.
I homeschooled my child before COVID. They're 19 now, but they chose to go to high school for a couple of years at the end. But I just remember the struggle of you have 4 minutes to get from one class to the other. It was an astounding schedule. And when I looked at it, I just couldn't believe it. And I remember back when I was in high school, we had 10 minutes between each class, but I was in the school was huge. And so one class I was at one end and my next class was at the very other end. And it was like it was so stressful because I would literally walk into my second class late every single day because I just couldn't get across the school from one end to the other in that amount of time, and, I'd put all my books in my backpack. So I'm carrying 50 pounds of books just so I wouldn't have to stop at my locker. And, it was just insane. So,
right.
Yeah. And that's just getting from one class to the other. That's not even talking about being in class and trying to learn everything, So I think if we can, anything that makes it better would be great. So what did you teach for 12 years? Other different things or specific?
Different things. I started off teaching drama. I taught drama 1, 2, and 3, and then I taught journalism, and then I taught English 12, English 9, and then I switched to middle school. And middle school I taught language arts, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Okay.
So I taught grades 6 to 12, mainly English related classes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but I love where I am now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'd so much rather be teaching writing, and I'm just glad I have the opportunity to do that because it's so much more fun some of the things that the students are coming up with are amazing. You know, like I have this one activity that they love, and it's called the 6-word story. And it's like,
yeah.
it's microfiction, of course, you know, but I give them a really cool, you know, image, a fantasy image or a science fiction related image or a steampunk image, and then they write their 6-word stories, and they're always so cool.
Yeah.
And I know in my world building class, we did something really cool where the students like created an inventory of potions, you know, that would be included in their stories. And, you know, they even made like Pinterest pages, you know, where they grabbed images, you know, and that was just a lot of fun, you know. Some of them even wrote spell books as well, you know, just a book of spells. And these are like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
They're amazing, you know. And one of the things that I love about Uptown Stories is at the end of every class, we collect their writing and they're published in an anthology.
Oh, what a great feeling for them. Oh.
Yes, and they're as young as 10, you know, so amazing. It's amazing to be cultivating them now, you know, to write, to be published. It's really cool because I never had that opportunity. No one even really talked to me about being published until college.
Yeah.
So, you know, and even then I was like a senior. I was not ready,
yeah.
You know, so like, it's weird. Like all of the, you know, workshops I took in college, because I was, you know, my minor in college was, you know, creative writing. You know, and so I took all these workshops, and like the teachers, like they never talked to us about being published. It was so weird.
I took
college is so weird. Like I feel like what do you think students are here for? Like not to just be college students forever.
Yeah, and same with mine. I minored in creative writing, and we were all constantly writing short stories and critiquing each other's stories. Yeah. And it was like, so when I finally came back to writing, got a book done, I had even though it was like 20 years and I knew everything was different than when I was in college, I still had no concept of how to go about getting published. I'm like, what do you do? Open a book and, you know, find the address. Cause you know, there's an address for the publishers at the beginning of each book. And I'm like, is that how I do it? I just get the address. They didn't teach us that.
Why is that? Isn't it weird and ridiculous? Like, I didn't know anything about getting an agent. Like, I didn't know querying. Like, we didn't even write any query.
Oh gosh, yeah. I just learned how to write a query letter because I read it out of a book. I mean, and the only reason why I knew I had to have a query letter was reading the submission guidelines from publishers, and I'm like, query letter, what is that? I don't know what to do. So yeah, I ordered a book by Jeff Herman about how to do all that stuff, and
bizarre. Listen, like, thank God for McDaniel's writing program, because their writing program is really on point. But I shouldn't have to wait till graduate school.
Right.
To do, like, what if you don't want to go to graduate school? Like, why are they hoarding all this information until? No, it's almost like they want you to squeeze all the money they can out of you, right? Because it's just like, first of all, some of this stuff is not even necessary. Like, when I think about my program, like, the writing stuff I absolutely loved. Everything else is just like whatever. And that's not really true, because I use so much of my knowledge from curriculum writing for this textbook. So I'm going to take that back.
Okay.
But it's still like, can y'all tell us this when we're like freshmen in college? Like, we shouldn't have to wait, you know. And I find that, and it's funny, because we went to two different schools, like, and so this is obviously widespread. Like, this is something that they do. They must tell the professors, like, and don't tell them anything.
Don't tell them how to actually do something with their work.
Right.
You know, and I think even just a short little, you know, a couple lessons on marketing too. Like, not only how do you get published, but once you get there, what do you do from there? Like, I'm you know, luckily I have a publisher that's telling me what to do with, like, how to go about social media and stuff, because I was I was not into social media before I got before I got picked a publisher. And but he's given me lots of great ideas to work with. But I would have never known to do any of it, So
Right.
come on, universities. Come on, colleges, get on it.
They're gonna have to step their game up, because I mean, first of all, with the internet, more and more young people are like, I don't want to go to college, and I'm not going.
Yeah, I can Google everything. Why do I need college?
Exactly. I don't need to do this, and sorry, bye. So things are going to have to change. Honestly, I think this pandemic is really, it's almost it's a once in a lifetime event, and it's going to change everything. It already has.
Yeah.
I think things really have flipped upside down, and I just hope that the people, power to the people. I hope that the people keep putting that pressure on, on these huge corporations, and because before this, we weren't well. Off, we weren't taking our leave, we weren't seeing our families, just things like that. Things were not happening. And so now, with people resigning, people saying, hey, look, I will do this, I won't do that. Do you have a hybrid thing in place where I can come to the office some days and work some days at home, And they're working those things out, and I think that is good. But I want us to keep the pressure on, because the cost of living is way too high. This is not
my gosh,
anybody. It's horrible.
Yes,
they're gonna have to do something about it. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and it seems like things really wanted to change, and they were moving towards change, but so many big companies want to keep it the same as before COVID. So it's definitely going to take people saying, mm-mm.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm really loving this book. It's so fantastic. I want it to storm the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And who's your publisher? Let's talk a little bit about your publisher.
It's MV Media. So Milton Davis is another author that I met back in 2007, I believe. So I've known him for some years. And we put out our first self-published books at the same time. And we just remained really cool. Really cool online, and remained Facebook friends. And over the years, he actually just launched the publishing company. He started off as, a self-publisher, and then now he has over 30 titles.
Wow.
And so now he's categorized as a mid-sized independent publisher. And over the years, I've submitted some short stories to some of his anthologies, and so we've always kept in touch. We've always been cool. And when I talked about the book, and I was querying it at the time, and I wasn't successful. At that point, I didn't have an agent, and he just came to me and said, I'd really like to publish it. And I said, well, sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I didn't feel like funding it again. Self-publishing is cool. You have a lot of control. But it's a lot of money to put up front,
Sure.
And I didn't feel like shoving out the money. Yeah. And I already knew the artist that I wanted to work with, and so it just came out. It ended up being a great relationship.
Great. Yeah. And so you do have an agent now.
I do.
You do. Yes. Now, how did you go about that, if I may ask?
Sure. My agent, that was probably the most amazing situation ever, something I did not expect. So one of the great things about my grad program and the writing program is they encourage us to begin to query and to start, to join SCBWI and to start looking for agents that are interested in the kind of work that he writes. So before, I think this might have been the fiction workshop was over, I'd already isolated maybe 10 agents that were interested in, like own voices, diverse voices, magical realism, fantasy, middle grade YA. And so I did that, and then I was also really interested in trying to do one of the Twitter pitch contests. And so I did the Twitter pitch, and I actually had an agent that was interested. But ironically, the book wasn't quite finished. So I never reached out to her. So that was that. So finally the book is finished in when is that? January 2020. And so I start pitching. And I'm just getting a ton of no's. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this book has been workshopped. What else do I need to do?
Yeah.
So you know what I did? I took a break. That's what I did. And I said, I'm not pitching no more. Some people, they have that will of steel where they'll just pitch for years. Not me. You can't tell me no more than 4 or 5 times. And then I'm like, okay, let me regroup,
Yeah.
So I took a break and I started to think about, okay, so if this is not working, what else could I be working on and what else could I do? So at that point, that's when Milton approached me about, publishing Dr. Jinn. So I said yes, and I just signed a contract with him. And then I started to think about the textbook. And so I said, okay, well, for a textbook, you can't just take stories from folks, right? They're the copyright. So the only way I would be able to really do it is to get original stories from people, and pay them outright for their work. So I did an Indiegogo campaign, and there's this a woman that I know, and her name is Audrey Williams, and Audrey's out in San Francisco, and she's also a writer, and she just has a lot of great connections. And so she said to me, hey, I'm going to, just blast, your campaign, your Indiegogo campaign to all of my folks here in Cali. So I said, okay, that's great. Oh my gosh, she did this, and the next day, I had raised $2,000.
Oh my gosh.
It was incredible. So, I'm thinking about the perks that I should give to people who give a certain amount, And so I had the short story that I hadn't sold, I hadn't tried to sell, but I thought it was cool. I thought, the voice was unique. And I said, oh, let me just do that. So literally, one thing that I did that I was proud of is every single person who donated, I wrote them a personalized email thanking them. Every single person, no matter how much you donated. Because first of all, I was just overwhelmed. I couldn't believe that I was actually going to make my my goal and surpass it. I was like, oh my gosh. So I get an email from this woman, and she's just like, hi, my name is Lori McLean, and I just read your story. And so I'm just shocked. I'm just sitting at the, the keyboard, just what? And she's just like, I'd like to talk to you about, your intentions for your writing career and whether or not you'd like to be represented.
Oh.
So I'll tell you something that's hilarious. Laurie is the partner agent at Fuse Literary. And I had 6 months before queried one of her agents with my book, and her agent had rejected me.
Yeah.
So Laurie we just hit it off, and so she said, okay, so what do you have? And luckily I'm always writing, so I had over 100 pages of things. And she's send it all. She ate it up. And she's just we did a Zoom call, and then I told her about her agent that rejected me, and she just laughed at that. You're kidding! And she's just oh, I can't wait to talk to her about this. And so every so often she mentions that she rubs it in her face.
Yeah.
That, I have these deals coming and, different things that I've done. So it's been fun.
That's
But,
great.
but that's how it happened. Like, I did not query my agent. My agent actually found me. She literally
That's so
donated to
cool.
my campaign. She thought that it was cool. She read, I had like a 12-page short story as a perk. She loved it. And then, boom, that was it.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have an agent, except I started querying agents before my novel was actually finished. And it was a situation where I got a lot of well, not a lot, but a couple of letters that are like, well, this is a really great idea, but we can't, we can't take it seriously because it's not finished, and then I had one woman that was like, please, as soon as this is finished, send it again. I'm very interested in this. And I think after that, I think it took me, let's see, I think it took me like 4 months from the time that occurred to actually finishing and sending it to her. And by then she couldn't take it on. So it's like, that's a huge lesson, is don't query agents until your story's finished. Yeah. Cause you're definitely not going to get one if it's not done. And you'll be really disappointed if you could have had an agent 4 months ago, whatever. But yeah, I'm always curious about that. I'm with an independent publisher, so I don't need an agent, but, and I know, I don't think you can get an agent for a book that's already been picked up by a publisher, but for future stuff, it's something to think about.
Yes, she's been great. Like, even as a go-between when it comes to like pitching the television series, she's been extremely necessary. Even though my former student has, a bunch of great connections in Hollywood, we still need that entity that says, hey, I'm blah, 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 blah from such and such agency. Yes. And I represent this person. And it was weird because like, they almost didn't want to give her they weren't going to give us any meetings. But thankfully I had an agent and we were able to use her, and so Lori is fantastic. She gives me so many opportunities, and she's really encouraging, and she's great. Yeah. And I've been signed to her now for a year.
Oh, great.
All this stuff happened in 1 year. It's really
it's so fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And so one last thing, the niece that makes pens for you, what are they? Is it like a magic wand in the book? And you have
in the book, it is called a conjure pen. Where are they?
Oh, it is. I haven't. I guess I haven't got to that part yet.
You probably haven't. No, because it's kind of buried, and it's like maybe chapters 16 or 17, something like that. So they're called conjure pens, and they are similar to wands. And she's created them. She has an amazing custom pen company. She's just 11. It's called Elise Designs, and she just does a fantastic job. So actually, this is one of them. There's some others. I don't know where they are. I guess I think they're in my room. But anyway, so I've been working with her, and I've been selling those pens on the side too. It's just merch.
That's fun. Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your brilliant mind with us, educating us on the African mythological creatures. And I'm enjoying your book so much. And I look forward to your other books coming out and the TV series. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting.
We'll see where that goes. Yeah. Hollywood is really kooky.
And I'm sure, we were talking about how long the publishing process takes. I'm sure the television process probably takes even longer than the publishing process. So
it does.
we can be patient.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much,
I really
Bea.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy this conversation, please press like and subscribe to this amazing channel.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.